So I have an update on my peppers and onions that we planted about a month ago. Stay tuned. Well, here I am, and welcome back to Land Alive, the Little Tiny Homestead. And today we are going to talk about the onions and the peppers that we planted about a month ago. And I'm also going to be planting my tomatoes and some more flowers. So, first of all, I would like to show you a big mess I have here of my seeds. I have a new organizational container for my seeds, and it's basically a container for photos, which has these little cells. And this one happens to be flowers. I put all my flowers except for some flowers in here. And I am going to be planting some flowers from seeds. Some will be direct sown, but a few today. And then my tomatoes today, which are also have their own container like that. And the ones that I'm going to be planting are these. So I'll just go ahead and run through these quickly. We have the red centiflora, and I do buy most of these from M.I. Gardner and Baker Creek. And then we have Chadwick Cherry, Ace 55. I have Marglobe, which is the nostalgic one for me. My mom always grew Marglobe. Dr. Weich's, that's a really great slicer. And the Tiffin Mennonite, which is a big pink tomato, also a good slicer. I originally got some of those seeds from my neighbor. Rose de Bern, Hartman's Yellow Gooseberry, that is a cherry. Honey Drop, which is also a cherry. Those are seeds from my son. And the spoon tomato, which I had grown in my green stock the last couple of years, but it just is way too big. So we're going to plant that with the rest of the cherries. 5 cherry tomatoes, and then I have 5 slicers or larger tomatoes. So those are what I'm going to be planting today. So before I get started on talking about my tomatoes, I want to give you an update on my seeds I planted back in February. And we'll start here with the onions, which surprisingly are doing quite well. You can see they're starting to get a little bit, I would call them leggy. It won't be long before I'm going to need to repot these. We could call it up potting. I plan to just repot in the same size pot, one in each pot. So you can up pot, especially if you're using smaller containers than this. If you are using tiny cells, I would say up pot to something this size, which brings me over here. I'll come back to those in a moment, to my peppers. And they're doing pretty well. If you are repotting or up potting, just make sure you are still keeping them under the light and keeping them warm. Peppers do like that warmth, and keeping them watered. This one's a little dry now. I need to get some more water in there. On the other hand, over here, we've got some problems. These are my petunias that I planted. I planted many, and you can see some have green and some do not. This might fool you. You may have thought that nothing came up in here, which is not true. They did come up very nicely and then died. Like I said, I've never done these before, so we'll see what happens. I think what I'm going to do is replant the ones that died. But these are looking okay, hoping to keep them alive. I'm trying not to waterlog them. I think that may have been the problem, that I waterlogged them a bit and they didn't like that. So if I have some seeds left, I will start those again. So that's the update on those, and hopefully that's answered a few questions about getting them up potted or repotted. Look at your zone of when your last frost is, and then depending on where you live, you can get those put out once they have been up potted and grown a little bit more. You might also want to, and I don't always do this, but harden them off, which would be taking them outside after you've repotted them for about a week. Take them outside, let them get a little bit of air, the wind blowing across, that hardens their stems a little bit. You can also put a fan on them to harden their stems. Or I don't know if harden their stems, but get their stems stronger because they've been babied and they're inside. There's little gnats around here. That's interesting. I don't know what those are coming from, but they don't seem to be affecting the plants. Okay, so I got my pots and I have my tomato seeds ready back here. I'm going to show you a bit. Let's see if I can get a little more light on the subject. Just take that away from the onions for a little while so we can have a little bit more light. Don't be too bright. All right, so I am going to, as I did with the peppers, I'm going to multi-sow my tomatoes, putting about 4 to 6 seeds in each pot. And I have here, my varieties are, I think I said I had 10 varieties. And so I'll need 10 pots here for just the tomatoes. Okay, I just want to mention one thing. I when I use up my seeds, and I didn't realize I was actually so low on these seeds. I thought I had quite a few, but some of these seeds I just used up today. And just from my own perspective, my own way of doing things, I will order more now of these so that I have them for next year, or if I decide to replant, if I have a problem with germination, since I don't have any extras. So just a thought that when you run out of seeds, if you really like those, you could reorder them right away. Of course, you can always save seeds too. And of course, that depends on if you have a good harvest for that year. So we always hope for the good harvest, though. So it's a little bit later in the day, and I just wanted to finish up, sign off, but show you what else I have planted today. I have just finished planting my flowers, and these are the varieties that I planted. 3 zinnias, 2 types of cosmos, 2 varieties of marigolds, 2 of strawflower, 2 of bachelor button, 2 varieties of kohlrabi. And I'm doing kohlrabi inside. Normally I would put it outside, direct sow. However, I feel like if they had a good start, they'd be ready earlier. And so that's what I'm doing with that. And then we have a cardinal flower, which is a perennial. I lost mine last year. I'm trying to grow a perennial. And then 3 types of sunflowers. A prairie mallow, which are my saved seeds. And hyssop, which attracts lots of butterflies and insects, other insects. And also I did some chamomile. So here they are. My kohlrabi, which is with the onions and tomatoes. I am not putting them on heat. I am going to put some heat on these, which are my cardinal flower and sunflowers, chamomile, etc. And then over here I have my other flowers, which will also be on heat. Incidentally, I also replanted a few petunias that I had some seeds left, so we'll see if they come back this time and do well. So thanks for joining me today for some more seed starting. And until I see you next time, stay rooted. Bye-bye.